I now give the floor to Mr. Carlos Ruiz Massieu.
I thank you, Mr. President. It is an honor to present the report of the Secretary General to the Security Council and to brief the Council on the latest developments in Haiti. It is also an honor to be joined in this briefing by the officer in charge of UNODC. And I also take the opportunity to greet and thank the government of Haiti through his ambassador here for all the support that they give to our work of the UN and BINU in particular. Mr. President, distinguished members of the Council, as we start a new year, there are high expectations for tangible progress on the political and security fronts in Haiti. To bring the transition to a close, and to achieve this, political responsibilities must be assumed, security efforts sustained, and international engagement must remain focused and coherent. Monsieur le Président.
Mr. President, Haiti has entered a critical juncture in its process of rebuilding democratic institutions. The arrangements for the current transition shall thus end on the 7th of February. There's an overriding need for national stakeholders to strive to contain political fragmentation, to cast aside their differences, to sustain institutional continuity, and to focus on the organization of elections. Let us be clear, the country has no time to waste on prolonged internecine fighting. The situation requires that the authorities, state institutions, political parties, civil society, the private sector, and religious and community leaders, for them all to prioritize the national interest and to act with responsibility and with restraint. Mr. President, finding common ground around the mechanisms of efficient and effective government beyond the 7th of February remains key to advance and to fully carry out the transition, as well as to enhance accountability and to accelerate electoral preparations.
Mr. President, at this critical juncture, I have continued to exercise the good offices of the Secretary General in support of Haitian-led efforts to ease political tensions. Engagement with political stakeholders, civil society, women and youth groups, and institutional counterparts has focused on fostering inclusive exchanges around security, electoral priorities, governance challenges, and impunity concerns. BINU will continue to facilitate inter-Haitian consultations and encourage stakeholders to engage constructively on ways to create the necessary conditions to end the transition and restore democratic institutions. Steps taken in recent months to advance electoral preparations are particularly encouraging. The adoption of an electoral decree on 1 December and the publication of an electoral calendar on 23 December provide an operational framework for moving forward after years of delay. New legal provisions on voter registration, diaspora participation, women's political inclusion, and the decentralization of vote tabulation, if effectively applied, stand to contribute to credible and inclusive elections. In particular, the introduction of new requirements on women's representation on candidate lists, coupled with financial incentives, constitutes an important step towards addressing long-standing barriers to political inclusion. The Prime Minister declared 2026 an electoral year. Achieving this goal will require sustained coordination among relevant institutions, predictable financing of the electoral process, and security conditions that allow all voters and candidates to participate without fear. In this regard, The United Nations remain engaged in supporting the Provisional Electoral Council to help ensure that preparations advance in a manner that is technically sound, inclusive, and credible. I stand ready to further lead and reinforce the UN engagement on this front and coordinate international assistance to national efforts to hold elections. Distinguished members of the Council, gangs continue to demonstrate the capacity to mount coordinated attacks, exert control over key economic corridors and agricultural regions, force displacement, stretch humanitarian response capacity, and push police resources to its limits. Intentional homicides in 2025 increased by nearly 20% compared with the more than 7,500 in 2024. At the same time, sustained pressure on gangs has yielded results. National security forces have intensified operations to reclaim territory and disrupt gang activities. In some parts of Port-au-Prince, as well as the Artibonite department, police operations supported by the GSF have led to the reopening of some road networks. In the heart of the capital of Port-au-Prince, limited improvements are visible. A state presence around the Champ de Mars, where the National Palace and several key ministries are located, is gradually being restored. The challenge now lies in expanding and sustaining security gains, as well as creating conditions for the delivery of basic services to communities. Without this, security improvements clearly risk reversal. Distinguished members of the Council, the transition of the multinational security support mission to the Gang Suppression Force, alongside the establishment of the United Nations Support Office in Haiti, UNSO, as authorized by this Council in Resolution 2793, represents a critical step to enhance international support to assist Haiti. I welcome the progress made for the establishment of UNSO with the support of Haitian and Dominican authorities, as USG CARE informed this Council last week. I would like to also welcome the appointment of Mr. Jack Christofidis as Special Representative for the Member State-led Gang Suppression Force, and I look forward to working closely with him to ensure coordination and complementarity in our joint support to Haitian institutions. Recognizing the positive momentum created by the Fourth Generation Conference last December, I would like to take this opportunity to reiterate the urgent need for member states to continue to provide the Gang Suppression Force with the necessary resources to execute its mandate, including through voluntary contribution to the UN-managed trust fund. At the same time, immediate security objectives must be balanced with longer-term strengthening towards the autonomy of national security institutions. The benchmarks annexed to the report of the Secretary General provide a framework for progress, accountability, and sustainability in this regard. Mr. President, lasting stability will require renewed efforts to design and implement credible pathways for disengagement from violence and reintegration into society, particularly for youth and children. Gangs continue to recruit and exploit children by manipulating grievances and their daily suffering of ordinary citizens from marginalized neighborhoods. From this perspective, reinstating a national authority on disarmament, dismantlement, and reintegration remains clearly a priority. A nationally led approach to DDR is essential to complement enforcement measures laid by national security forces with the support of the Gang Suppression Force. BINU, working alongside the United Nations agency funds and programs, will continue to support national authorities in designing and implementing safe exit, DDR, and CBR initiatives prioritizing children. Mr. President, distinguished members of the Council, the humanitarian situations remain a source of grave concern. Approximately 6.4 million people require humanitarian assistance in Haiti, placing the country among the largest humanitarian caseload in the region. The humanitarian response remains underfunded. Last year, Haiti was one of the least funded global humanitarian appeals. In 2026, $880 million is required to help 4.2 million among the most vulnerable. Mr. President, the period ahead is certainly crucial for Haiti. Managing the political calendar, supporting still fragile stabilization efforts, and addressing persistent humanitarian needs will directly determine the country's ability to progress towards credible elections and a gradual return to a normal institutional functioning. The developments we have observed demonstrate that progress is possible, but that it remains reversible. Such progress required continued national commitment, unwavering international support, and close coordination among the security, political, humanitarian, and stabilization components. Any disruption to this coherence would pose a real risk of setbacks. And in this particular juncture, unwavering and timely support from the Security Council will remain as important as ever. I thank you, Mr. President.
I thank Mr. Ruiz Massieu for his briefing.